find it interesting that whenever you talk about women having sex, you say that we are used, and that proves the fact that
not whenever.
Right.
Only only in your version of it. Not in.
No.
I don't think women should be used for sexual pleasure.
Incorrect.
Michael Knowles is against having sex unless it's for reproduction. Is that what he just said?
Kind of. He's kind of getting there, isn't he?
Isn't that kind of what we're talking about here? Is our body for?
Now he's going to go full naturalistic fallacy here.
It's just a stupid. Yeah, that's. I'm surprised he brought that up. That's a terrible argument.
Your body is whatever you want it to be used for. That is the basis of consent and bodily autonomy. You cannot decide what the use and value of someone's body is for them, and that is the root of the pro-choice stance.
Well, I don't know. We were both born of mothers, and I'm quite happy for that value that was added to my life.
And I'm very happy that my mother consented to the pregnancy that brought me forth, but I would never want my mother to bring me into the world against her will.
In case this is clipped out, we're watching a video here of Michael Knowles debating a medical student on When Life Begins. Here we go.
We don't want to just be talking in an echo chamber here. We don't want to be pyromaniacs in a field of straw men. And so we sometimes invite left-wingers on the show to present the strongest version of their point of view. I'm always very grateful when left-wingers come on the show. Not an easy thing to do. Most of them just refuse to do it. So I'm very pleased that our guest is Bronte Remzik, who is...
Okay, good opening. I like so far. I'm on board. This is good, right? Okay.
Right, yeah. I'm super triggered by this video, but anyway.
Okay. I'm curious. I haven't seen this chat, so I don't know how this is going to go.
A third-year medical student, a social activist, very much in support of legal abortion. We've gone back and forth on TikTok and Twitter and MySpace and all sorts of social media platforms. So we thought, let's just have her on the show and discuss the issue. Bronte, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Michael. I can't say that it's a pleasure, but I'm excited to help you expand your perspective.
Well, that's...
Wait.
That's so good. Oh, that's so good.
What did she just say? I'm sorry. I'm hearing weird sound outside. What did she just say?
Is it the gator? Is the gator back? Holy shit.
No, this is like a human sound. I don't know what's happening.
Anyway, don't be distracted.
Maybe the gator's eating a person. I don't know.
If someone screams, you're allowed to run. So she basically just slapped Michael Knowles in the face. Here, it's pretty good. I'll back it up. Obviously, you weren't paying attention.
Sorry.
When she does it, Michael Knowles just gets the biggest smile on his face. It's so good. You have to look.
Okay.
Just have her on the show and discuss the issue. Bronte, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Michael. I can't say that it's a pleasure, but I'm excited to...
What the fuck?
Look at Michael Knowles' face. Look at Michael Knowles' face.
Oh
what?
My God.
What? How can you say it's not a pleasure?
That's so rude.
I know.
Well, I guess I can't really fault Knowles for being bad faith if that's how she's going to start the conversation. Right off the bat.
This is what David Pakman did immediately as well.
Right.
This is a super contentious dialogue. And I think part of the reason why it's contentious is because both parties really have extreme positions that they're very much attached to. They're just attached in a way that I think is unhelpful for either side of the argument. So,
well, I do feel like when you have these abortion conversations, it's basically people having, it'd be similar to people debating, which religion is the correct religion. You're not going to change anyone's mind.
Right. No one's going to change their mind at all. Yes. And fundamentally, this is Sitch's law on steroids. Sitch's law is 90% of debates are over definitions. 100% of abortion debates are over definitions. They're over the definition of the word baby or child. From an impartial third-party perspective, you can see this. All they're doing is advocating for the other one to see to
accept their definition.
Right, to accept their definition of
where life begins.
Right. Well, I mean, right right wingers will be upset if I call it a zygote or a fetus, because that immediately is telling them I'm not accepting your definition.
Right.
When I call it a fetus in the first trimester and I say, that's not a baby, that's not a child, especially in the first month, it's kind of like just a clump of cells, right? It's a
What if you call it a
zygote.
skin sac? Is that better?
Yeah, exactly. So, but the argument is really just accept my definition of this zygote as a baby.
Right.
That's what I want you to do. And I'm going to trot out a bunch of arguments why you should accept this definition. And you're arguing over definitions. It's like pointless.
Help you expand your perspective.
Well, that's very kind of you to do that.
God.
So, Bronte, before we get to the issue of abortion itself, which I suspect we will get to, I guess we have to get to this issue that Anna Kasparian raised and that is really at the heart of this Supreme Court decision in the past week of the news cycle. Namely, does the Constitution enshrine a right to abortion?
I gotta see why people are yelling outside. Make sure the snake isn't doing something crazy.
Why? Okay, go ahead.
I'm just gonna look at the window. Okay.
But take your camera. Take your camera with you.
I'll take my camera. I'll take my camera.
I want to see this fucking snake.
Okay.
Okay.
Abortion. It seems very difficult to argue that it does. One, because I don't see that right anywhere. The judges who decided that there was a right in 1973, a right that previously had never been acknowledged in the Constitution, they said that it was found within the emanations and the penumbras, and they couldn't quite point to exactly where it was, but hey, anyway, it's there. Then you had Planned Parenthood v. Casey.
So this is where I agree with Michael Knowles and people on the right when they say the right to abortion is not in the Constitution. I think that is obviously true. Like, they kind of tried to shoehorn it in there, saying that there's an implied right to privacy and abortion has to do with privacy. But I think pretty much everyone, except for far left abortion advocates, believe that the legal standing for abortion has always been shaky. What happened? Did you get a picture or what?
I tried, but I wasn't fast enough. So It's a different animal problem. Apparently today is Wildlife Tuesday.
Right.
Okay. On my neighbor's roof is a male peacock. I don't know if you know this. Peacocks are a big problem because they go on your roof and they rip up your shingles and your ceiling tiles.
He's making a fucking nest up there.
So my neighbor is like screaming at this peacock, throwing rocks at it, trying to get it down, and he just pulled out a ladder and he has a hockey stick and he's like trying to knock the
I can't believe you didn't get a picture of this. This is
I tried because from my window I could see it for like a second and then it jumped and like flew away somewhere. So
all right, good. I didn't know peacocks could fly, but
they can fly like for very limited,
right? Like a chicken. Yeah.
Like a chicken. Remember from the other guys, I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly. Spread my wings.
Yeah. They have the peacock flying at the end. It's amazing.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway,
back to Michael Knowles.
Michael Knowles.
In the early 1990s, which actually overruled part of Roe versus Wade, at least in the argument for why we needed legal abortion, but nevertheless upheld legal abortion, and it was all kind of just a big jumbled mess. So is it your position that the Constitution provides for some heretofore invisible right to an abortion, regardless of what you think about the issue?
It is my opinion that we have a right to privacy, and abortion is a medical procedure, and the right to privacy does extend to the discussions between a patient and a medical provider.
Okay, but I could have a right to privacy with my mafia capo, and we could decide to whack my political enemy, and I guess those conversations would be private. I don't think there is some generalized right to privacy in the Constitution, but even if they were, that would have no bearing on the life of the person that we're going to kill, right?
Well, the discussion between you...
See, he's already framing it as a person that we're going to kill, which is...
Right.
I feel is... This is why I find these debates very disingenuous, because it's all about framing that zygote as a baby or a person or a child. So it's all rhetoric. It's all completely rhetoric. And she never steps out and says, listen, I understand and I respect the fact that you believe that the zygote is a fully formed human being, but I don't share that perspective. And
no,
just,
I agree. He's making you think past the sale.
Yeah.
Quote your favorite artist.
But isn't that a little suspicious? A little.
Right.
I mean, it's a little.
It's not suspicious. He's inserting the premise in what he's saying.
I'm trying to think of the better word for dishonest, because it's not really dishonest. It's more like, advertising. It's like persuasion.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be honest, chat. Chat is giving me a hard time because I said male peacock.
Right.
I didn't realize that the female
Peahen
peacock was called the peahen. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. I apologize. I don't know my peacock lore. Okay. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a zoologist. I don't know these things. Yeah. Excuse me.
Peacock.
Excuse me. When the peacock comes up and says, "Can you define what it means to be male?" I'll give an answer.
At least you didn't say it was a female peacock.
That would be stupid. That wouldn't. Right. Yeah, I don't know if the females actually do rip up the shingles or not.
They're called peahens, right?
So
okay, let's move on.
And your mafia friend is very different from a discussion between a patient and a medical provider. We have laws that protect patient privacy for this exact reason.
But I suppose you're right. The distinction is that right now it's illegal for me to talk to my mafia boss and call out a hit on someone I don't like, and it is legal right now, at least according to the civil law.
No, I mean, is it illegal to talk to
call
your
a hit on someone? Of course it's illegal.
Well, I mean, what if you're just joking though? What if it's a scene for your acting class?
Well, then that's different, Adam.
Okay.
For a woman to talk to a doctor and kill her child, but that very likely.
See, kill your child.
Is she going to respond to this framing, or she just let it go?
She does, but not specifically. Yeah, which I think is part of the problem.
Will not remain legal if Roe versus Wade is overturned in 13, 14 states. Instantly, that will become illegal. So I guess I'm just talking about the matter itself, beyond questions of the civil law, which might be changing in real time right now. What's the difference? If you're saying it's all about a right to privacy, I'm saying, no, it's about the baby that's being killed. So do you have an answer for that, or are we just denying the humanity?
Just set it up so she's a baby killer right there. You're a baby killer.
Humanity of the baby.
No, absolutely. So when you put up a scenario of trying to put out a hit with the mafia, you are talking about murdering a born, living, conscious, sentient, autonomous person. When we talk about abortion, we are talking about ending a non-autonomous life. You do not have the right to bodily autonomy if you are not autonomous. And if you are a fetus.
See, she's already messed up because she already granted him that it was a life.
Yeah, I know.
Lady, don't you know how to argue with people on the internet? Come on.
I mean,
go
let her finish her argument, and then you can tell me what you think of it.
To the limit of viability, you do not have autonomy. Therefore, you do not have the right to bodily autonomy.
This is a great point.
You reside inside of the body of an autonomous person, and the right to bodily autonomy allows you to refuse to use your body to support the life of another person.
So this is.
So what do you think?
It's kind of I don't know. On one hand, it's an okay argument. On the other hand, it's like my counter. I don't know what Michael says. My counter would be that you created that life and you created the person reliant on you in the first place. So thus you have some responsibility. So I think that's the weakness of that argument.
Wow, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
But I think there's some truth to it.
Right.
It's a precise and important point you've made. You've acknowledged that abortion ends a life, but you've said.
Look, he totally seizes on it. You nailed it. He's like, listen, you fucked up already. You already gave me your flag. Look at this.
You gave me the flag, yeah.
Those were your exact words. You just said that the life is not autonomous. Would you say that a 2-day-old post-birth baby is autonomous?
It has bodily autonomy, and its body system is able to function autonomously. Yes.
The baby can feed itself?
You are trying to get to the point where they require external resources, but any person can provide that infant external resources. The utilization of someone's internal organs is very different from providing external resources. You cannot force someone to be a parent and provide external resources. You can give up that child at any point that you stop consenting to your parental responsibilities and your parental rights.
Okay, so that's fine. So we've acknowledged now that the baby.
Okay, I mean, I think that's a good counter to what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's holding her own, definitely.
He is living in the womb or outside the womb. It's a living being, and that the baby is not really autonomous. I mean, maybe it has. It's not attached by an umbilical cord, but it certainly doesn't have autonomy when it's 2 days old. It needs to eat. It needs everything taken care of for it. What you're saying is, though, once the umbilical cord has been severed, the baby can be taken care of by someone else. So then my question is, why would we not merely encourage adoption? If the mother feels she can't take care of the baby, why not just give up the baby for adoption rather than killing the baby in the womb?
Because pregnancy in itself is
See, and she completely accepts his framing.
Yes.
Like if you have an abortion, like I don't even know that they get to his. I'm sure he's a life at conception guy, but I don't think they even cover it.
Mm-hmm.
But just accepting the fact that if it's like a 2-day-old zygote, that it's a baby, I think is a huge miscalculation here.
Yes, I agree.
A very serious medical condition that has physical, mental, emotional, and financial burdens for the pregnant person.
Yep.
And to force a person to endure that.
She used pregnant person, so I'm on Michael Knowles' side. I think she's a baby killer, and I think she should definitely be, yeah.
Oh, because she said pregnant person.
Yeah. I'm now pro-life.
Pregnancy in itself is a very serious medical condition that has physical, mental, emotional, and financial burdens for the pregnant person.
Yep.
And to force a person to endure that experience against their will is simply immoral, and it's belittling the experience that pregnancy is.
Well, so when you say against their will, what you're referring to cases of rape, basically. Right,
No,
because when you engage in sex, you are engaging in an act of the will, the consequence of which is, historically speaking, always pregnancy.
Correct, but when you consent to sex, you're not consenting to pregnancy. You're.
She shouldn't. Well, first of all, I don't know why he said that. The outcome of sex is not always pregnancy. That's weird. I don't know why he said that.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of people have sex without having babies, and they've been doing it for thousands of years.
Not Michael Knowles. Not Michael Knowles. It's only for reproduction.
Only for procreation.
His wife hates his guts, but
Okay.
Are consenting to the possibility of pregnancy, but you can think of
Right.
it like this. You understand the difference between consensual sex and sexual assault. You should then understand the difference between wanted pregnancy and unwanted pregnancy. Technically, physically, they are the same thing. But when your body is being used against your will and without your consent, those are very different experiences for the person.
But Bronte, you've just acknowledged that.
See, this is the problem. She's too honest. She's just like a normal person,
right?
Who, has normal conversations with people. She doesn't know how to argue on the internet. She can't. She's giving him the argument. She's giving him too much ground here.
Yeah,
that's fine.
When you consent to sex,
I'm kind of surprised that she is doing that, because she started the conversation in such a aggressive way that I was really expecting her to not give him anything. So this is kind of surprising.
Yeah, no, she seems to be arguing in good faith.
But she started off in such horrible faith.
Yeah.
It's bad to be here. Fuck you, Michael. I was like, oh my God.
Well, do you agree with me that I think Michael is being somewhat bad faith here, just because he never really, and he knows this. He acknowledges that we're really having an argument over definitions of baby and life and child and stuff like that. He knows that. He totally knows that.
I guess I would assume he does. I don't know if I'd say it's bad faith. I don't know what it is. It's hard to tell because so many people, when they sneak premises into their arguments, I'm not sure they are aware of it because they're coming at it from such a blind view of their own world that maybe they don't realize what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I'll reserve judgment for now anyway.
You are consenting to the possibility of pregnancy. So there you have it.
I that's just not really though. I mean, no, I don't know that. I mean, if you're having sex for fun, it's a stretch for me to say that you're consenting to the possibility of pregnancy. I mean, most people have conversations about that before, like they even have sex. Like,
well, I think that's a weird way to phrase it. You're not consenting to the possibility of being pregnant. You don't consent to the possibility of something. Like you can acknowledge it if you're intelligent, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
most people, you know, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're having regular sex, you kind of have the conversation about what would we do if you were to become pregnant?
Sure.
Yeah.
But what I mean, like,
we would kill the fuck out of that baby.
But what I mean is like, so when you every time you drive a car,
right,
and you put on your
you're
seatbelt,
consenting to the possibility of walking away a paraplegic.
Yeah, like I wouldn't. That's why I have a problem with like the way this is framed. Because when I put on my seatbelt when I get in a car, I'm not consenting to the possibility of getting a car accident. I'm not even really thinking that like, oh, I'm gonna get in a car accident, that's why I'm putting on my seatbelt. It's just sort of like I don't think about that when everywhere I go where I'm driving. But you still put your seatbelt on because it's still, you know, it's kind of like a rote memory, like a rote action at this point.
Safety first, yeah.
Right. Because at one point, because you do acknowledge that, yeah, it's possible, but it's not something you're thinking. Like every time you get in a car, you don't have the conscious thought, or at least I don't. Maybe you guys do. I don't have the conscious thought every time I get in a car, I could get in a car accident and die.
Right. Michael Knowles is setting up a world here, though, where any unwanted pregnancy, any accident must be carried to term, though.
That seems like that's what he's setting up, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what most of the life begins at conception. And that's the only way to have that argument and be consistent, I guess, which is what you talked about the other day.
Rape apologist. Yeah, I'm serious. Oh, it's so painful. Oh,
that's not fair. Painful. That's not fair.
Why?
You can only listen. I thought we agreed. You can only call them rape apologists if they call you a baby killer first. I thought that was the rule.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just, I don't know. It's like these ideas are so, this is just so evil. It's so evil. It's so.
Yeah, but he thinks the other side is evil. That's the problem.
Right. Yeah, no, he thinks they're baby killers.
Right.
That's why using that terminology is terrible.
Baby killer.
How can you have a good faith debate with a baby killer? Just have a good faith debate. I don't want to straw man your baby killing argument. You can't do it. Yeah. Not good.
But there you are. You have consented to that. Now, you might not want to become pregnant. You might want to use all sorts of contraceptives and things like that. But surely, I mean, you've just said it yourself. You are consenting to that possibility. And so now you're telling me that if one wants to then withdraw one's consent because one doesn't want to be uncomfortable for some matter of months, you're saying that the better alternative is to just kill the baby whom you have acknowledged is alive?
First of all, calling pregnancy simply discomfort is belittling the experience. But you can also think
it's like beautiful and miraculous too, but it's also uncomfortable.
Says the white man who will never experience it.
Oh no!
Well, I'm looking at Michael Knowles, and I mean,
is he white?
Is he white? I mean, he looks Hispanic to me. But
yeah, I thought he was some kind of.
I guess this
mulatto
is
baby or something.
White passing now. I don't know. Why you got to bring race into it anyway?
I know that had nothing to do with anything.
First of all,
she could have said like you'll never experience that as a man. Well, first of all, she can't say that because that's transphobic. But secondly,
yeah, after she said the pregnant person, she definitely can't say that.
Right. You'll
never experience it as a person who can't get pregnant. This is the thing. I've never thought about Michael Knowles' race until this very moment when she called him a white man.
Mm-hmm.
Like what the fuck? Why are you gonna do that?
What's his ethnicity? Become the Knight said, "Hey, Become the Knight said he thinks he's either Spanish or Italian."
Yeah.
He got a BA in history and Italian from Yale, so maybe.
Yale, obviously, yeah.
Oh, there you go. This is of Italian descent. There you go. I mean, I guess the Italians are white, Adam. So there you go.
Okay, I guess he is a white man.
There you go.
He just got a nice tan.
He's a dirty spaghetti scarfing Mario.
I mean, why you got to say dirty? That's not nice.
Because it's okay to be racist to white people.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I mean, okay. I guess you're right.
Don't you know how any of this works, Adam?
Technically, yeah. When are we going to get some white tears out of this Karen over here?
Become the Knight says that was a Family Guy reference. Well, apparently your Family Guy reference turned out to be true.
Watch out.
So there you go.
White woman tears on the coming up.
That totally distracted me because I was going to say something else. Wait, what did he say before? What did she say before that?
Because one doesn't want to be uncomfortable for.
Oh no, I was going to say again, I don't think you consent to a potential negative outcome. I never if you, I don't know, what's something dangerous. I don't know. Say you're going to go hang gliding or parachuting.
Parachuting. Yeah, exactly.
You sign the little paper that says, you consent that you could horribly die, right?
Right.
Your parachute could not open and you could die. But I don't think anyone walks into when they go parachuting thinking I'm consenting to potentially dying.
Right.
This is not the way people think of things. So, I don't know.
I'm consenting to having a child with this person.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge, you have to think about that. That's a risk. I just did that terminology. I don't know why he's using it. Consenting. You don't consent to potential negative outcomes.
Has Michael Knowles never seen the movie Knocked Up? I feel like.
There you go.
I feel like that might be some good research for him.
Some matter of months. You're saying that the better alternative is to just kill the baby whom you have acknowledged is alive?
First of all, calling pregnancy simply discomfort is belittling the experience. But you can also think
it's beautiful and miraculous too, but it's also uncomfortable.
Says the white man who will never experience it.
I mean, does she know she'll ever experience it? I'm curious.
Ooh, mean.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, it's a big accusation to make.
Does he call her out as it being a transphobe? I hope so.
Maybe, I don't know.
You can think of it. No. So
I thought that can men become pregnant or not?
Yes.
If you have a uterus.
A man with a.
He did. He called it out. That's hilarious.
This is why they're gonna lose so bad. They're gonna lose.
If they bring up this man shit, I am curious because that will be a very interesting. That would actually be the genius technique from the right. Would be whenever they get into these abortion conversations, every time someone on the left says a woman's right to choose, they said, oh, don't you mean a person with a uterus is right to choose?
I mean, you know how my elephant works, Sitch. If there was a ban abortion law on the bill, on the ballot, and I'm there by myself thinking about this pregnant person nonsense, I'm likely to vote for it. And I'm pro-choice.
Just because of the pregnant person thing?
Just because of the pregnant person thing.
Wow.
Okay. I told you I'm reading that book on prohibition. I had no idea. This is totally crazy. But the brewers who were who were against prohibition, obviously they're making a shitload of money off of prohibition. They were totally against women's suffrage. They thought if women got the right to vote, that they would vote against them for prohibition and they'd be out of business, right?
Didn't that turn out to be true?
Women voted. Yeah, prohibition passed. They made fucking alcohol illegal. illegal, right? For like 20
but
years.
a lot of it was because of women voting, right?
A lot of it was fucking payback. The women got the right to vote, and they were like, fuck you. You were against us when we were trying to get the right to vote. So it was straight political payback. This is the same exact thing here with the abortion stuff.
Well, no, but I guess what I'm asking is, like, were they simply right in their prediction that women would be against them, or were women only against them because they were against women in the first place?
Well, they haven't laid out a lot of evidence for that to be the case in the book. Right. I would like to know more, but they are definitely implying that. They definitely say that, obviously there were women who like to drink just as much as there were men who like to drink. So, yeah. Right. So they could very well have been voting against their own interests just to say, fuck you. Which would be the exact same thing as me voting for some fucking pro-abortion bill. I'm like, yeah, that's right, bitch. Pregnant person in my face. You want to talk about the fucking male uterus? Here, abortion's illegal. Fuck you. I'm serious. I can't take this, Sitch.
Oh my God.
I can't take this. I can't. It offends reality. There's no such thing as a male uterus.
I can't believe you're such a bigot, Adam.
Sitch.
I think Jangles was right about us.
Sitch, are you gonna Sitch? What come on, the female penis, does it exist? You tell me, yes or no?
Of course it does.
Don't make me put a poll up.
Of course it does, Adam. Okay.
Do you believe in the female penis?
Female penis is real. Now, I've never experienced it, but I've heard tell. From people like Short Fat Otaku, I've heard tale of it. Okay.
This is we're stepping into a whole new world here. I think you can't take obviously gendered body parts. Next thing you know, you're going to say the female Y chromosome. What the fuck?
It's all arbitrary. Listen, Adam, male, female. This is all.
Get out of here. Get out of here, punk.
Adam, if you cut open a man or a woman, it doesn't say male, the words male or female on their, like, inside of them. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Social. No, it doesn't.
It says it in their genes.
No, it says XY.
Sitch, you gotta listen.
It doesn't say male or female.
I'm gonna be on Twitter later. I know it. I'm gonna be arguing with Jangles.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that you believe in the female penis? Because I don't want to straw man you or anything.
You should, just because it'd be funny.
I feel like you might not be. I feel like, okay, I don't want to box you.
Do you think am I dripping with sarcasm? It's so hard to tell. I don't know.
You are dripping with sarcasm.
I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Who knows? I'm like Jangles. It's all just a joke, but maybe it's not. I don't know. No one knows. I don't have to take a real position. It's technique.
Listen, hold on. When does this hit the ballot in California? When can I vote? When can I vote to make abortion legal? Yeah.
Illegal.
Yeah, illegal. That's what I meant to say. Never mind. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's hit
Sitch believes in the female penis, guys. You heard it here first.
The uterus, Michael.
So
because if you don't have a uterus, then you're not the men with a.
Well, look, I'm not a biologist.
Not a biologist. Listen.
This is hysterical. This
is funny conversation.
How did you not want to watch this?
I'm glad we watched this. Yeah, this is funny.
So I'm not sure if I'll become.
Okay, here we go.
If you have a uterus,
he's unsure if he'll become
a man with a uterus can.
Michael.
So
because if you don't have a uterus, then you're not the men with a.
Well, look, I'm not a biologist, so I'm not sure if I'll become pregnant. I do have a little emoji that tells me that these days men can become pregnant. Regardless of that, if you're talking about non-consensual sex, what percentage of pregnancies arise from rape, incest, or involve a threat to the life of the mother?
Well, it's hard to say because about 3/4 of sexual assault go.
People make that argument, but it's kind of completely irrelevant.
It is irrelevant.
Well, it's only not irrelevant if they say that they're willing to allow the exceptions. If they're not willing to allow the exceptions, then it's completely irrelevant.
Right. Well, he's making the argument that it's not a big deal because it's so little, but he doesn't want to allow the exceptions. Like if the exceptions were excessive, I think he'd be like, okay, well, maybe we could have a conversation if it's like 50%, but it's just a few people. So let's go ahead and fuck them over. Right. Which is, I mean, okay. Like, that's just a horrible argument.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unreported. So any statistic that I would give to you is going to be inherently inaccurate.
I'll give you a statistic from the most left.
Did you catch her argument? You kind of paused it in a funny spot.
Yeah, she said because rapes are so underreported that you can never really know the answer to that question.
Right. A woman could get raped. You know, she could get raped at a party, non-consensual sex, and get pregnant and not pursue rape charges, but want to get an abortion nonetheless.
Right.
So obviously that would be unreported. And I mean, it doesn't stretch the imagination to think something like that could happen. I mean, right?
Well, we talked about this before, that if you had to have been raped to get an abortion, rape accusations are going to skyrocket.
Yeah, they're going to go through the roof. This is going to be a regular thing.
Yeah.
Like boyfriends are literally going to consent to being called a rapist just so that the woman can get the abortion. It's fucking, well, that's the world you're setting up.
Left-wing source I can give, the Guttmacher Institute, it's the think tank for Planned Parenthood. Less than 1% of abortions take place because of rape, incest, or pose a threat to the life of the mother. So we're talking about an extraordinarily small number.
According to the ones that have been reported. According to the ones that have been reported.
Don't you think if there were a scarier statistic that the most pro-abortion organization in the country might use those statistics?
Not if they had to lie to make up that statistic. Like he completely ignores the argument she made. This is the bad faith part right here. Like she made a totally compelling argument and he just ignores it.
Statistics.
But these statistics are very difficult to collect because, again, sexual assault is a difficult issue and people don't often report them because you see how our political system doesn't often support victims of sexual assault. And so our system doesn't support people reporting sexual assault. Therefore, it is underreported.
So this seems...
I don't like the argument that she makes here that people aren't reporting it because the system is not going to support them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, they're probably not reporting it just because they would rather fucking forget about it, not deal with reliving it over and over again. So
I don't think she's making a good argument. I don't like the statistics are wrong because it's underreported arguments, because that could be true.
You just don't know.
Technically that could be true, but then it's like, well, then you can't make decisions based off of things that you don't know, right?
Right, but it's a totally irrelevant. We both agree that the statistic is even irrelevant.
Yeah, we do, but she should make that argument. She shouldn't go down this track. I don't think saying you can't know because women are raped, how much the women are raped. I don't think that is a good argument. I mean, that was the argument.
She should say that, I question the statistic, but the statistic is still irrelevant.
She should.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. What was the name of the think tank?
I don't know. You want to back it up?
Well, I don't really want to, but
okay, let's.
Oh, okay, here it is. Guttmacher, gut matcher. Because I'm curious if that number they come up with, is like an estimate or only based on like reported things. Because usually with sexual assault stuff, they're estimates. Because they usually try to include estimating like that the numbers are going to be higher. But
good for them.
Whatever. Hit it up.
Seems difficult.
For it is underreported.
So this seems difficult for me, Bronte. Well, one, it seems that in the years after the Me Too movement, there was quite a great political impulse to report sexual assault and all sorts of sexual issues. But furthermore, you're telling me that we need to rely on these statistics, trust the science, trust the public health organizations when it's convenient for your argument and convenient for abortion. But we shouldn't trust the statistics when it's inconvenient for your argument and supports the pro-life argument.
That is incorrect. You simply don't understand how these statistics work and how they are collected. When you understand and when you analyze statistics, you have to understand the bias and the flaws that they have. And what you are specifically citing statistics that have inherent flaws. That doesn't mean that all of the statistics that we cite are inherently flawed. You have to understand the issue at hand and how those statistics are collected.
Okay, fair enough. So you're saying you don't believe these statistics that are inconvenient, but you say you have perfectly good reason not to believe the statistics. I suppose the question, though, is really...
You don't think she has a good reason to question the statistics? I think it's a great reason to question the statistics.
No, I don't, because the statistics are probably underreported. But that's the same argument that, the feminists would say about like, oh, sexual assault is way higher. 1 in 5 women have been sexually assaulted because it's all underreported. They kind of come up with these prediction models that are way off. Look, when in reality, I mean, you look at the National Crime Victimization Survey, I think they make better estimates about, how many women are victims of sexual assault and stuff.
All she has said, though, is that she believes it's underreported. She hasn't gone out and said it's like 50%. Like if she was saying it was 50%, I would be like, yeah, okay, right. This is a little crazy. But she's saying it's underreported, and I think it's probably... it doesn't stretch the imagination to say there are people who have been raped who have not reported it.
Right. Well,
I feel like, okay.
I don't know if this is the thing that Michael was talking about, because there's a study from this Gutenmacher thing, but it's from 2005. And it's just a poll. And they polled 1,160 women in 2004. And they polled 1,900 women in 1987, and they asked them, "Why did you have an abortion?" And so that's where that 1% number comes from. And I'm not sure that's a good way to go about it. Right? Is to ask, just say like, "Oh, were you like?" I mean, I don't think people want to say they're raped generally in polling data, but
okay,
You missed everything. You were completely distracted.
That's okay, but no big deal.
What were you distracted by?
Nothing.
Beyond the statistics, isn't it? If you are acknowledging, Bronte, that the baby is alive, if you are acknowledging that the baby could be given up for adoption, if you are acknowledging that instances of rape are, I think we can acknowledge they're quite rare, at least when we're talking about, even if you dispute some of the statistics, they're the exception, not the rule. If you are acknowledging all sorts of, if you are acknowledging the relatively low maternal mortality rate, if you are acknowledging the advancements in science, if you are acknowledging that very, very few women die every year from illegal abortions and all sorts of the other scare statistics that come in, if you're acknowledging all of those.
What's up? You can't mute yourself at the same time.
Sorry. Bring up the idea that very few women die to illegal abortions is a very bad argument, because the argument would be, well, that's because in a lot of places, in most places, they can get abortions legally right now. That's not really an argument in favor of making it illegal in the future.
Well, I keep waiting for him to say, you've acknowledged that life begins at conception. Like all of this is just the most people are comfortable with abortion in the first trimester. Michael is the one that is in the minority here. Mm-hmm. Most people are completely comfortable with abortion in the first trimester. So you have the minority position here. You're the one that's being the screeching SJW, bend to my preferences, to my aesthetic here. Mm-hmm. And I
don't know, because you're not talking about
rubs me the wrong way.
I mean, I'm assuming he's against abortions in the first trimester, but I don't know, because they haven't even got to that.
No, I know, and she hasn't even asked him. I mean, this is why this debate is so infuriating, because like most people who want to vote on this issue, the debate is really over, when life begins. That's been the whole thing. The Supreme Court case set the life begins at viability, when the baby could actually live outside the womb. And that's why they settled for, I think, abortion within the first 2 trimesters. Which makes most people uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Like, what? You're 6 months in and you're going to abort this baby? What are you, fucking crazy? It is a baby at 6 months. But none of this is being talked about in this conversation. So
those numbers, even beyond that, don't we still have the fact of the baby? Don't we still have the non-utilitarian, non-statistical, simple fact that you're talking about a living human being?
No.
See, a living human being. How will she respond?
So first off, you said that we have a low mortality rate, which actually we have one.
She doesn't even respond to the fact that it's a human being.
I know, she's not even.
Yeah.
She let him lead her by the nose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the highest maternal mortality rates amongst all of the developed countries.
But it's still quite low. What is the maternal mortality rate according to the CDC?
I don't know it off the top of my head. I simply know that
20 out of 100,000, and that includes communities that do not have very good public health outcomes because of various behaviors and pathologies in the community. So it's relatively quite low. How many women died from illegal abortion the year before Roe versus Wade?
I'm not sure, but that's besides the point.
39 women. How many women died from legal abortion the year before Roe versus Wade?
I think what you're misunderstanding is that death is not the only negative outcome of pregnancy. Just because you don't die does not mean that your life and your body is not impacted for the rest of your life. Because a lot of people are left with chronic pain and your body is functionally and structurally altered. And so death is not the most accurate statistic to determine whether or not pregnancy is a negative experience.
There we go. So we move past the question of death and we say, well, really, forget about death for a second. It's just that it's very uncomfortable, and not only uncomfortable for 9 months, it might be uncomfortable for the rest of your life, or it might change your body chemistry, it might change the way you look, or it might change. Is any of that, Bronte?
Well, I also. It seems, wouldn't you? I mean, a lot of people I feel would be emotionally impacted by the fact that they have like a child out there in the world that that they put up for adoption.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of it too.
Well, yeah, but it's not a good argument in order to, advocate for why you're going to kill the child over, adopt it, put it up for adoption.
So, are you going with kill the child because? Like in the first trimester, I'm
not going with that. I'm saying under the way this conversation is going, I don't think that's a good argument.
Yeah.
Using his framing. Yeah.
Terminate the pregnancy before you have a child, I think is like the true thing that's going on here.
I mean, I'm on record saying I think you should be able to abort children up to 18 years, let alone months.
Right.
In trimesters,
72nd trimester.
Yeah, so I'm pro murder.
I'll leave you with this because I know we're way over the time. Is any of that an argument? Now that we've kind of chipped away, I think at least, it's up for the viewers to decide, chipped away at the constitutional argument or the legal argument or the statistical argument or the argument for mortality. Now we get down to, well, I just don't like what it does to my body. Is that an argument, Bronte, for killing a human being who you admit is alive?
See, killing. He's like, I want you to say on my show that you're killing a human being. Nobody's in favor of killing fucking human beings.
Except for me.
Well, yeah, I guess if they're a rapist or a murderer, I'm in favor of killing them. So.
Well, I wonder if
no one's in favor of killing innocent human beings.
I mean, how innocent is anyone truly innocent, Adam?
Okay, this is where it's like it's difficult to do a comedy show.
It's a comedy show, Adam. What are you talking about?
We need a little.
Listen, Adam. Is anyone truly innocent being born to this cursed world filled with sin and darkness? They all bear the sin, the original sin of Adam. No one is innocent. No one is innocent.
This debate is just like. Are you coming over here now, Wormy?
Is what?
This debate, it's just so infuriating. It's people wanting to put this is what triggers me about it. Mm-hmm. It's people wanting to put their worldview onto other people, which fundamentally just drives me insane.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that. I want our conversation with Hypocrite to try to be productive.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hold on.
I don't want you to get triggered.
The only reason I invited him was because I feel like he is a good faith actor.
Okay, because his entire argument is what you're saying triggers you right now. That's essentially his entire position.
Well, I understand that, but
okay, I just want you to be mentally prepared.
But
for the conversation.
He will not straw man that triggers us. He'll acknowledge that.
Right.
Other people won't. He's not going to try to be evasive. That's the thing.
Right.
We've literally had to have this same conversation with other people who are evasive.
Yes.
Anytime you make an argument, they're like, no, let's not talk about that. That gets too close to.
I have no idea who you're referring to.
Distributus.
Okay. I was joking.
Dave, the guy who came on.
I was joking.
Twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they have very different arguments, though.
Yes, but I mean, ultimately,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, they're arguing the same thing. But let's continue. Let's back.
Okay.
Come on. Now you have me. No, you changed the subject by bringing up. I know.
I want you to be mentally prepared for the conversation. Okay.
Right. Authoritarians bug me, and it's.
I know.
This is really authoritarian on authoritarian violence here. It really is. This is like one authoritarian versus another authoritarian.
Hot authoritarian on authoritarian violence.
Right. Yeah. Not in a good way, though.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Everyone has the right to determine the status of their body. They have the right to decide when and how their body is used. And if you
get vaccinated, bitch. Get your booster. That's right.
would like to go back to, I know that you've had a lot to say about vaccines and masks, so I don't think it's very confusing for you to understand when you are concerned about certain effects that certain things might have on your body. Someone has every right to decide whether or not they consent to that.
Well, my only issue with the masks and all the COVID stuff is that it's very silly and disordered. But I'm not even making some sort of maximal bodily autonomy argument. Regardless, though, I think they're a little different because we're acknowledging the baby. So I guess I would leave you with this thought from Naomi Wolf, well-known feminist, made this point in the 1990s. She said that what the pro-abortion movement needs to be able to do is defend abortion. And she was, and I think still may be, a defender of abortion. She said, we need to defend abortion by acknowledging the baby, the unborn baby. We need to say that the unborn baby is a baby. Stop pretending he's not a human. Stop pretending he's not alive. Acknowledge that he's a baby and say that for women to be equal, they must be able to kill the baby in all of his humanity. Would you agree with that statement?
Tell me this isn't bad faith again, Sitch?
Okay, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Well, I was going to say, before we kind of got sidetracked, I assume this is why he's talking to her in the first place, is that he realized that she kind of has this position about she's fine saying it's a life, she's fine saying it's a baby. And that's why he specifically, they're having this conversation publicly.
Yeah.
Because usually people won't say that. Usually you're right. The argument is this definition of, well, is it really a baby? Is it a clump of cells? Blah, blah, blah.
Right. No, I wish he would pull out a T-shirt that said "baby killer" and say, "I would like, just at the end of the debate here, I would like you to put this baby killer T-shirt on."
Now, but I guess the question is, I think a lot of people who are on the pro-life side would say, well, people arguing about whether it's really a life or not, I think a lot of them don't think that's a real argument. And so maybe that's why they would like this conversation, because they'd be like, it's a mask-off moment for because a lot of the pro-choicers.
Right, because someone's admitting that it's a life.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know that that's a huge win.
It's a huge rhetorical win.
Seeds are a life, right?
Yes, but that's true. But when you say a life,
seeds are alive.
Baby, we know what we're talking about. We're not talking
about seeds. Life begins at conception is designed to be very nebulous.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Right?
Right.
Because life and a life are different things.
Right.
Yeah, Okay. Whatever. Okay, if this is a big, I mean, it is a rhetorical win in the fact that she's saying pregnant person, and Adam's going to vote in favor of the federal abortion ban because of it. So you got one pro-choicer on your side now. I am doing it. I'm doing it just to spite them.
Oh my God.
Just to spite them. I'm going to be like, take that. Yeah. Take that, pregnant person. Mm-hmm. How you like me now, pregnant person? Oh, what?
Oh my God.
Does you think that's bad? I mean,
I think that's pretty bad.
I mean,
I think spite voting is always bad generally. Yeah.
I mean, it did happen for prohibition.
I'm kind of skeptical that's why prohibition happened, but
you've never cast a spite vote in your entire life?
No, of course not. That's very stupid.
Okay.
That's prime your elephant is in control.
Well, I think 90% of voting is spite voting. So
I mean, you could be right.
I think
you might be onto something there.
Come on, let's finish this bad faith debate.
What I agree with is that in order to protect and value an unborn, non-viable, non-sentient life, you have to actively devalue and dehumanize the pregnant person. You cannot pretend to protect unborn life without actively dehumanizing and devaluing the pregnant person and removing their bodily autonomy. And that is the issue at hand.
It seems to me.
I think that's a good counter argument, but not the way she said it.
Because she said pregnant person like 6 times.
Well, no, just like, because in order, because he's like, don't you agree that you just have to acknowledge that you're just murdering a life? And then so the counter is like, well, no, you're the one that's devaluing life here. You're devaluing the life of the mother, which I think is a good argument. The way she framed it is not best. But listen, she's not an internet debate lord, so that's fine.
When we treat women mothers, we are valuing them. I think it's devaluing women to use them for sex and try to avoid the consequences of sex.
It's completely irrelevant to what they're talking about.
It's devaluing women to use them. How do you know that it was? Hey, wait a second, Michael. How do you know it was using them? How do you know that wasn't consensual? How do you know it's not a married couple? Well,
no, you don't understand. He knows better.
How do you know it's not a married couple that has 18 kids and the 19th kid is going to break their fucking wallet?
Right.
Yeah. How do you know it's not a married couple that has 1 kid and they're barely getting by?
Mm-hmm.
By killing the baby and then pretending it's somehow legitimate because the baby is not sentient. So as though we could kill someone in a coma, or as though someone who were asleep, the baby were not particularly conscious, as though we could kill people who had mental disabilities. I don't think any of those arguments really work. And I think.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm actually shocked that he said that. He's against killing people that are in like vegetative comas and stuff that aren't going to recover. Because that's what he sounds like he just said.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's fucked up.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah, I think that's fucked up. I think when people are brain dead or in a vegetative state and there's like no chance that they're going to wake up. I think you should be allowed. I mean, I think even people who are just have debilitating medical conditions that they cannot recover from, who want to commit assisted suicide, I think that should totally be legal. I think it's crazy that that's not legal.
Yeah, I'm in favor of assisted suicide.
Yeah.
Should be able to, I mean, your family shouldn't be involved. You shouldn't be killing yourself I don't think you should, obviously. Right. But if you're in a situation where you're terminally ill, I think you should be able to decide whether or not you want to die with dignity. Or,
I mean, my grandfather, like the last few years of his life were awful, and he was like, he really wanted to die. He really wanted to commit suicide. It was just like,
yeah, that's a horrible situation.
Yeah, it's really horrible. I think it's crazy that we live in a society where I think that should be a basic right for most people.
Yeah, it's kind of barbaric that the way that we stretch out their lives, and a lot of it's done to make money for the medical community, which is, I don't think that's why it's
illegal, but that's the effect of it.
Yeah.
The issue that's at heart here is that you are suggesting that women being used as vessels for sexual pleasure without
Now take a look at that look on her face. Look at this.
Vessels used for sexual pleasure.
Look at this. This is fucking culture clash right here. I gotta screen cap that, man.
She's like horrified. That's so funny.
That's insane. That's insane. Well, if we clip this out, we at least have the thumbnail.
There you go.
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
Dealing with the consequences of sex, namely the creation of human beings, that is somehow more liberating and more empowering than women coming together in love and giving that love with a man to a human being. I think that's what it really comes down to.
I find it interesting that whenever you talk about women having sex, you say that we are used, and that proves the fact that
not whenever.
Right.
Only in your version of it. Not in. No. I don't think women should be used for sexual pleasure.
Incorrect. It seems like
Michael Knowles is against having sex unless it's for reproduction. Is that what he just said?
Kind of. He's kind of getting there, isn't he?
That's pretty fucking. It's pretty fucking beta.
This is why.
Fucking beta, man.
This is why this is so frustrating. It's because she never follows up. He leaves all these questions hanging. Like we don't even know if he's a life at conception guy.
I'm assuming anyone who's like, you shouldn't have sex unless it's for procreation. It's plays life begins at conception. I'm assuming. I think that's a safe bet.
You're in favor of women being used for sexual pleasure. She's like, what the? When did I say that, motherfucker?
Well, I mean, isn't the counter that is like, well, you're only in favor of women being used as like
reproductive
birthing
vessels.
mules. Yeah, like you're saying that women shouldn't have sex and enjoy it.
This is why this debate is just like, nobody enjoys this debate.
I'm enjoying this debate. This is hilarious.
Okay.
men still believe that sex is something that they do to women and not women.
You must have misheard me, Bronte. I said that men and women. No, and I don't think I did, but that's up for the listeners to decide. I said that the more valuing, liberating, flourishing view of sex is that men and women come together because they are complementary. They love one another. They join together in marriage, and they create new human life. And that's a beautiful, miraculous, wonderful thing. And I think that the view of the pro-abortion movement is that women ought to be used as merely vessels for sexual pleasure with an out of accountability such that...
I mean, isn't that true? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to say that.
You fucking sexist piece of shit.
I'm just saying what we were thinking, all right?
That if there is a product of love, or maybe not so much love, namely a child that comes out of that sexual union...
He said something here that I think is important. Because it really... I often think that conservatives are very much in favor of the law of karma, even though they don't. They would hate it being categorized as a law of karma because karma is like an Eastern philosophy. But
right.
He says something here. Let's check it out.
With an out of accountability, such...
See, he says an out of accountability.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting. Yeah.
So that very much says... I don't want people to like do the crime, do the time, and they perceive of sex as you did the crime,
right?
Now you got to pay the time,
right?
When we perceive of it more like you said, like a car accident, like you were driving. Obviously, nobody wants to have a car accident, right? They do happen, and we do our best to get past them without it being like a huge ordeal. An unwanted pregnancy is fucking an accident by definition.
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, and if she had been a little bit more skilled in the conversation, because I mean, is using a condom an example of escaping responsibility?
Right, is being on the pill. Maybe they did. Yeah, maybe they did 2 forms of birth control.
Right.
Is that?
I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. When exactly have you taken the proper precautions to be? But Michael Knowles would say, no, listen, you should not ever have sexual activity unless you're prepared to reproduce with the person you're having sexual activity with.
Well, there's a difference between saying that and saying like you should only have sex to reproduce.
Yeah. Well, none of them we get from Michael Knowles.
Right, so but I don't know what his position is on this, because it sounded kind of like, and he kind of walked that back, so maybe he doesn't mean that, but kind of sounded like he was an anti-sex for pleasure guy.
Right. I don't know.
Pretty beta, if you ask me.
That if there is a product of love, or maybe not so much love, namely a child that comes out of that sexual union, that baby ought to be killed. I think that's a devaluing of women rather than a valuing or a liberation.
Minimizing women's value to the role of motherhood is simply misogynistic.
Minimizing? I think that's maximizing, frankly. I think.
Yeah,
maximizing. How you like that, Sitch? Role of mother is the best. That's a pinnacle of the role that a woman can achieve.
What, I think the universe,
your worldview, which is obviously flawed.
Well,
yeah, that's an obvious trigger point between them, because essentially she's basically perceiving what he said is just like, oh, your only value is your ability to produce more humans, as opposed to your experience in the world.
Right, and he's saying but he says that's the highest value.
Right, but he's not viewing it like that. Like, he's viewing it more like, oh, men and women have roles prescribed to them by nature or God.
Right.
And that fulfilling those roles is
your highest calling.
Your highest calling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some people have higher callings.
But this is what I mean when I say Sitch law. They're really arguing about the definition of what it means to be fulfilled or to have a calling in life. They don't realize that's what they're arguing about.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We were both born of mothers, and I'm quite happy for that value that was added to my life.
And I'm very happy that my mother consented to the pregnancy that brought me forth. But I would never want my mother to bring me into the world against her will. All
right. I don't think that. I don't think our discussion of will or value or any of those things. I think it has boiled down to this particular point of what the body is for, right? I mean, isn't that kind of what we're talking about here? Is our body for?
Now he's going to go full naturalistic fallacy here.
It's just a stupid. Yeah, I'm surprised he brought that up. That's a terrible argument.
Yeah.
Or is sex for the maximal individual pursuit of pleasure, or is it for something else? Is it for a baby? Is it for unitive love? Is it for something beyond just our own desires?
Your body is whatever you want it to be used for. That is the basis of consent and bodily autonomy. You cannot decide what the use and value of someone's body is for them, and that is the root of the pro-choice stance.
What about the body of the baby in the abortion?
When the baby lacks autonomy and it requires the body of an autonomous person in order to live, that autonomous person must exercise their bodily autonomy, and at any point they must consent to supporting that possible life.
Must exercise. All right, I'm way over as usual, Bronte, but I really appreciate your coming on. It's takes a lot of chutzpah. I know there's a lot of sexual confusion these days, but it takes cojones to come on a conservative show and discuss the issue. I hope that as you think about this issue and stew on it some more, that your eyes are opened to the reality of the situation. But I appreciate your coming on. In any case, Bronte Remzik, where can people find you?
So condescending.
The reality.
So condescending. So, I mean, we probably have super chats to read. This one obviously grabbed my attention.
Mm-hmm. I don't fault him for being condescending, especially at the end, because she was so hostile in the beginning of the conversation.
Right. She's kind of poisoned the well right off the bat.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, generally, if you're the host, it is better to give your guest like the last word, but and not slip in like your argument at the end point. But I don't fault him because she was so hostile in the beginning. I don't care. That's fine.
So again, thank you very much. We got a $20 super chat for someone to call us bad faith. So I mean, Coyote Doge for $20 says you're both incredibly bad faith by not even trying to understand Knowles' views, which I mean, I feel like I understand Knowles' views, and I don't see how you can call us bad faith. I mean, I don't feel like we're misrepresenting Knowles' views. I think we're clear where Knowles' views have not been clearly articulated. Like
Right.
we don't. There's a lot of things we don't know. Is Knowles a life begins at conception person? Does he does he perceive of a zygote or a fetus as a baby? I mean, I feel like he probably does, but it's unclear from this debate. So, I mean, where are we? What are we getting wrong? I'm not trying to mischaracterize Knowles' position. Do you feel like
I don't know.
We have, Sitch?
I don't know why. That's why I said it, because he would say things that were weird, and I'd say, that sounds like he's saying this, but then we would never get to the bottom. I mean, she wouldn't ask a follow up, and then he wouldn't expound on it. So
I mean, Become the Night is.
But I said all that, so I don't know. I feel like I'm being as good faith as possible. I think Coyote Doge is a little elephanty right now, but that's fine. This is a very elephanty issue for people.
Well, Become the Night is saying the same thing. You guys do not understand Knowles' views.
You're right.
I mean, what is?
He hasn't explained them in this video that we just watched.
What is? What are we missing?
You're right. I don't know what his views are.
Whenever people do this, the most frustrating thing is
they don't say what the views are.
Well, no, they do. But all they're doing is reading between the lines. Like Michael Knowles will say things that can be interpreted in multiple ways, and you interpret it in your way, and we interpret it in our way. But our way is bad faith, and your way is good faith, even though either way could be. I mean, it's really up in the air. Like he's not clearly articulating what he's saying. So
Become the Night says he's just bringing the Catholic perspective. Well, if he's just bringing the Catholic perspective, then we weren't.
Yeah, I understand it very clearly. Life begins at conception.
Yeah, I don't understand.
You know,
sex should only be for
there
procreation.
is no difference between a baby and a fetus or a zygote.
Right.
Yeah, it's abortion is murder. You're killing an innocent life. There should be no exception for rape or incest because the baby is innocent. What am I getting wrong here?
I don't know. Because I mean, the conversation for most people really is it? Well, it's a couple things. Is it a baby, or is it not a baby? Is it a life? And the other part of that is, what are you valuing more? Are you valuing the fetus / life of a baby, or are you valuing the woman / birthing person's right?
You fucker.
I know. Right of bodily autonomy. And generally pro-choice people, one of two things, or both say that they view the baby as not a baby, as a fetus, as cells, as not alive.
Right.
And they also tend to view the woman's right to choose as the woman's right over their own body as superseding, the life / potential life of the fetus. That's why I think the conversation or the debate is kind of pointless, because it's just people valuing different things.
But this is two super extremist positions, because she's even saying you have bodily autonomy in the 3rd trimester. And if you want to abort the baby, like when it literally is a baby.
Right. But that's why he had her on, though, because she does represent
the extreme position,
like a very extreme position,
Right.
Well, at least I don't know. She didn't say specifically that she was in favor of, aborting the baby till like the day it's born. But I guess you could draw that from what she said. That
she did not say it either.
Right. But I guess you could imply that, because she said she did make the comment about you need continual consent or whatever.
Right.
And so that framework doesn't provide for a cutoff date. But I think maybe she wouldn't say that. I have no clue.
And I like I said, I do appreciate the $20 super chat. And I want to try to be clear here, because I feel like a lot of people, like you say, you're not even trying to understand Knowles' views. And what I really think you mean is that unless we agree with Knowles, we don't understand him. Because if we understood him, then we would agree. Like a lot of, I think it's important for people to understand people they disagree with. I think part of the problem is people don't necessarily understand people they disagree with. They're like incapable of understanding people that they disagree with, which I don't think that's healthy. I really don't think it's healthy at all. Since you want to weigh in, or should I read?
Well, I think it's interesting. I do think it's people being dragged down by their elephant, because I mean, it would have been very easy for me or Adam to just say Knowles is a Christian crazy person who is just woke. He's original woke. He's just doing everything that his religion says. This isn't about being thought out. This isn't based on logic, blah, 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 blah. And that's probably all true to some extent, but I mean, me just saying, like, I don't know, I don't understand fully his position because he's not explaining it and she's not asking for it. And then that gets you're being bad faith. I don't think that's fair. I think you need to reassess your elephant at that point in the conversation. So,
yeah. So let's see if there's any more super chats that are.
Yeah, there was a couple relate to this.
Go ahead. Every
Satoshi
sperm
Satoshi was a reptilioid. For 50 Knox says every sperm is sacred. Life begins at first eye contact between parents. Life beginning at first eye contact between the parents makes as much sense as when the cells smash together. Or is in vitro fertilization mass murder?
Well, see, I would say that Michael Knowles is likely consistent on that principle and is probably against IVF. Yeah.
Right.
So he probably thinks when IVF happens, normally dozens of zygotes are created, or embryos, dozens of embryos are created, and only certain ones are implanted in the uterus, or is it uterus?
Yeah.
Okay. So only certain ones are implanted and the other ones are discarded. But obviously those were fertilized embryos. It could, of any one of them, been a human life if they would have been implanted. So he's probably against that, which good for him. Makes him ideologically
not good for him, because I
consistent.
think that's a net harm to society. But I mean, good for him for being consistent, I guess. But
right. Well, I just,
the position I
is it a net
with.
harm? I mean, I am a believer
I think not allowing people to get in vitro fertilization is a net harm. Yes.
Oh, I agree with that, but I think there are so few people, like I said during the debate, I think Michael Knowles and his perspective is an extreme minority. I really do.
Agree.
I think it's a very small number of people that have that perspective, but they are very vocal.
Well, I mean, you don't have to think it. I mean, that's when people talk about the polls, when they say most people are in favor of, pro-choice, it's like, yeah, most people are in favor of some amount of legal abortions up to a point.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
First trimester is people are pretty
like
up for.
Most people
Second
that are
trimester,
in favor,
people are like, what the fuck?
Right.
If you haven't made a decision in 3 months, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Baruch Usprich for $10 says the problem with the privacy argument is it's right for it to remain unknown, not the right to have it. So my understanding regarding the privacy right to abortion, it's not necessarily that it's like your right to privacy it's like that the right to privacy is built into, I thought was built into the right to bodily autonomy. I thought that's what was being referenced. And they're saying that like the state can't interfere with your private affairs over your own body. That's my understanding of the argument.
Right.
Could be wrong. Really
that's my understanding as well, but I mean, it's flimsy legally.
Well, I should read the full opinion because I'm curious. Like if you're going to read in the right to privacy, if the court is going to read in the right to privacy, because it doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution that a person has a right to privacy, but if that's going to be interpreted by a court,
it does. There is an implied right to privacy in the search and seizure prohibitions in the.
Yeah, but that's for something very specific, though.
Right.
It's for a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Right.
What is that? The Fourth Amendment?
Something
where
like
you have the right to privacy in your effects and.
Right, but that's not. That's for something very specific,
like
though.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that if they're gonna read the right to privacy into the liberty, people have a right to liberty in the 9th Amendment or whatever. I have to see what the basis for that is compared to the basis of them saying, that can also apply to bodily autonomy, which also applies to abortion. So of course, the stickiness with abortion is it's not just because it's from the pro-choice side, they say it's all about bodily autonomy, and the pro-life side says it's not about bodily autonomy, it's about sacrificing human life.
Right.
So that's why it's not a clean issue.
We got another response from Coyote Doge for $20.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Coyote. What does it say?
He says that's the point. You're jumping to the conclusion that Knowles is nonsensical when you're chatting, explaining this. Now you seem to get it. Elephant is you saying Knowles probably thinks anything. He's written about this. Well, I
don't care.
I don't read or watch Michael Knowles regularly because I'm not really interested in his perspective, but I have encountered this perspective before in other people. So, I mean, I know about it.
I thought.
And I mean, I never said Knowles' position was nonsensical. Knowles' position is perfectly logical if you believe life begins at conception and that a zygote embryo is a baby.
Well, here's what I'll say. If you get upset that I say I don't give a fuck about reading every position he's ever had, I would ask you why you don't care if I don't read this woman's positions before I try to interpret them. Why I don't read anyone's mass interpretations before I watch any of these videos.
That's a good perspective.
When definitely. We watch, Jangle's CRT debate, I'm not looking at all of Jangle's other videos to try to understand everything except for fucking Sat.
Yeah.
And part of the way that I was approaching this, because I don't really care to argue the abortion stuff, and I thought I said this, maybe I didn't make it clear enough, was that I was watching this debate just to see, how is this debate playing out in this specific incidents, and do I feel like anyone is acting in this conversation in bad faith? I don't. So I'm not super interested in the extra knowledge of anyone on either side's opinion or on this conversation. I'm just looking at this in the vacuum here.
Well, if they wanted to put like a national referendum on abortion, like if they wanted to say, listen, everyone's going to cast a ballot in the next presidential election, everyone who wants to, whether or not abortion is going to be banned forever and always, I would accept whatever the outcome of that election was. I mean, so.
Well, and also I don't even really understand the chat, because it says the point is you're jumping to the conclusion that Knowles is nonsensical, when I thought we both said that if he believes that the right to life begins at conception, is not being nonsensical. He's being consistent. We just disagree with that position. I mean, I just said that you should only have sex for procreation is pretty beta. It's not nonsensical, but I think it's lame.
Right.
And then he said, now you seem to be getting what? Obviously, we understand he's coming from a religious perspective. I mean, was that just what you're referring to? That we just weren't calling out that he's coming from a religious perspective? I mean, I assume that was. I assumed everyone listening knows that's where Knowles was coming from. I didn't think I had to state that.
Well, and
I don't know.
I mean, Ben Shapiro, who has a very similar take on this,
yes,
has always said, though he's coming from a religious perspective, he finds it very important to argue politics from a secular perspective.
Right, because he knows that it's not persuasive at all.
Right, it's not persuasive, and he doesn't want other people to do it for him.
Right.
Like, yeah. So, and I mean, Michael Knowles was arguing Ben Shapiro style from a secular perspective, but we honestly didn't learn a lot about Michael Knowles' position. We're kind of inferring it. So,
right.
But
he did. Knowles, dominated the conversation, direction and flow of the conversation. So,
yeah.
And she was not adequately prepared. She was not prepared.
Right. And why I was saying it was bad faith when he was basically saying, just admit to everyone that you're in favor of killing innocent people. Well,
here's the thing. He in a vacuum, he's inserting all these premises into the conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Which is bad faith. But the interesting thing is, I'm assuming, because he said that they had been going back and forth, previously, prior to all this stuff, that it might not be bad faith, because that might have all come out in the conversation. So I guess like I think that's my prediction. The reason he wanted to have her on is because he knew he could beat her over the head with a stick.
Right.
Which, I mean, I guess you could say that is bad faith, but
if you're in favor, and maybe this is why he did it, if you're in favor of abortion up to the 3rd trimester, then I think it's fair to say that you're in favor of killing a human life. Like, I'm sure. Okay, no problem, right?
Yeah, but she's not even, this lady doesn't care about that. She's already bit the bullet on that argument.
So
she's
then
not even argue that.
So then she is in favor of killing a human life.
Yes, that's what that's what it appeared to be. Again, I haven't read through the entire history of their argument or her position, right. So you have to fucking excuse me, chat. But it seems like from this conversation that she was arguing from the position that it's irrelevant as whether it's a life or not.
Right.
But you can make that argument, but it's just obviously optically, it's much stickier and harder to make an argument like that.
If you're in favor of, abortion in the 3rd term, I think I'm comfortable calling you a baby killer. I mean,
yeah, but you have to understand what you mean when you say that. When you say, because what you're equating is what you're really saying is, I don't think there should be abortions in the 3rd term. That's what you really mean when you say that.
I am saying that. Yeah.
Right. But you understand that you're hinging that on whether someone is killing a baby or not. And she's saying, I don't care if you're killing a baby. You could be killing a baby from the moment the sperm hits the egg. It doesn't matter.
But this is so far out of most people's position. Most people have the position that it's not a baby in the 1st trimester. Yes. It's a baby after that.
Yes, that is most people's position.
And then abortion, they find acceptable in the 1st trimester because you're not killing a baby. You're terminating a pregnancy. You're removing the fetus or the lump of cell or the zygote, whatever stage it's in, but they don't categorize it as an innocent human being.
Sure, but but you're right. That is not the way most people think of this conversation. But I think that's why he chose her to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they both. Yeah, I think they both do have extreme positions.
Right.
So yes. I mean, that's what kind of makes the conversation interesting. I wish he had been more adept at exploring his positions, but alas.
Yeah. Let's read more super chats.
I'll try, but keep capping. Andrew Clark for $5 says, I hear what you're saying, Adam, but how would you describe sustained metabolism of cells other than life? I do get the child baby framing though.
Well, yeah, no, I don't deny that it's alive, but when it becomes a baby is, I mean, it's like I've said before, it's an open question. I view it the same way I view becoming an adult. Like we say on your 18th birthday, you're an adult. But it's like people mature differently. Some people, I find it hard to believe that anyone is an adult on their 18th birthday. Okay.
Well, I think better example than the adult example is you said like a seed is alive.
Yes.
So obviously, you don't weigh it that way. So the question is not whether something's alive, it's whether it's something like a human life.
Right.
In the way that we conceptualize human life. I think that's the real thing you're trying to get at.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, at some point it does become, there's a point of no return. But for me, I wish we would all just settle on when that point of no return is, so the most people can be comfortable with it. And it feels like that's in the first trimester. Right. I know, obviously, the pro-life contingent, the Michael Knowles of the world, I respect their position, but I think their position is an extreme minority. I do not think that they have anywhere close to a majority on this topic. So
Yeah.
if Michael Knowles' position was adopted, I think the most number of people will be unhappy with that. That will not,
Right.
they will not believe that is fair. They will not accept that. Yeah. So it is what it is.
The Intern of War for $5 says the reality behind abortion is much like the reality behind how your burger is made. There's a reality behind both. Most people don't like address. That's true.
Counterpoints is saying 18 weeks. I mean, I think 18. I'm comfortable with 18 weeks. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. But the thing is, the reason why the pro-choicers keep wanting to stretch it out is because the pro-lifers keep wanting to, make it difficult to do within 18 weeks.
Yes. Both sides are trying to squeeze the other side out.
There is no cooperation going on between both sides. Like most people, I believe, would feel more comfortable with it being taken care of sooner than later. Right?
I would imagine.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Derp Swiggity for $5. Hey guys, I'm new to your channel. I've been listening to a lot of your old streams during my 12-hour shifts at work. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Derp. Thank you. I'm glad we can give you a little bit of mental interest while you're working. Elis the Aquanaut for $5 says, pro-choice people need to just stop denying to life because it's literally why you decided to perform this operation. What else are you preventing? Well, you're basically agreeing entirely with Michael Knowles' framing of the conversation. So,
right. And yeah,
that is the framing Knowles was trying to get out. Brain for $5 says, the man thinks you're killing the young and you think he is snarky. LOL, get some perspective. For crying out loud. Well, that's a really bad take, Brain. And the reason that's a bad take is because that's literally the argument that the woke make. You understand that? Like they literally say, you're killing trans people. You're killing black people. You're putting in a fascist dictatorship in our country. And you're tone policing me for being aggressive or snarky. How dare you? So no, I don't subscribe to that argument.
It's true. Everyone wants to take it up to DEFCON 5.
It's like, yeah. The argument is that the pro-choice people generally, I don't know about this woman seems to have a different opinion, but generally the pro-choice people don't think of it as killing the young. So Cryptomancer Lex for 50 Mega Man X dollars says Knowles is, quote, Knowles' framing things is on itself a framing. It implies it's merely a tool of rhetoric, but if he believes it, I don't think the word applies. Well, okay, that's interesting. I disagree. I guess maybe we have different definitions of the word framing. Framing to me is just the way in which someone sets up a premise or a question. You can completely, and I've said this repeatedly, I think most people do believe in what they're arguing for. I think Knowles obviously truly believes in what he's arguing for, but he is framing it in a specific way in order to give himself a rhetorical advantage, or at least it seems like that. Now, it turns out that it might not matter because she might agree with that framing, but that is definitely going on in the conversation. You can't deny that. So framing doesn't necessarily mean the person doesn't agree with whatever they're saying. It shouldn't be conceptualized that way. Plastered to the wall for $10. Thank you. It says, my wife and I have 4 kids and all of them planned. No birth control and no condoms for 20 years. Nice. Doing the old pull-out method. The old timing method. It's called family planning. It's not that hard to learn. Teach girls how to learn their cycle. There you go.
Really? Okay.
Well, to be fair, I have a relative who was not aborted, and his parents were trying to do the old timing cycle method, and I guess they messed it up because it didn't work. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't always work. What could I say?
My grandmother said she had a kid for every method of birth control there was. So
really interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and also there's a situation. It could just be that some women are more regular than others. I think is part of the conversation.
Well, and
too.
I mean, she was before they perfected the pill. So, I mean, there was a time before.
Right. No, but I'm saying I've dated girls who were very regular with their periods. I've dated girls who were not. So
Right.
it's kind of a. I
Look
guess
at
it depends
you,
on
player.
you. Oh, I'm sorry. I've never had sex or done anything like that because I'm waiting till I'm married.
Yeah, good for
totally
you.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I'm a good Christian, like Michael Knowles. Joe the Make for $2 says the legal terminology is acceptance of risk. Yeah, I think that's a better. I think you're right. Acceptance of risk is a much better way of framing it than like. What did he say? Consent of risk or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
It sounds different. I'm being very technical and pedantic, but it sounds different to me. I don't like it. Accedient Media for $5 says, Adam, a zygote is a term describing a stage of development, not the name of an organism. The zygote is a semantic term no different than the term toddler.
Okay, good. That's good to know. So it's a embryo and then it's a fetus. Is that the stage of development? I don't want to look it up because it kind of.
I don't know, but I mean, I assume we'd all. I wouldn't say it's the same. I understand the argument. You're saying like a zygote isn't an animal. Like there's a human zygote, there's a dog zygote, there's a cat zygote. It is a stage of development. But I feel like that's sort of like a word argument because obviously when you're saying it's a zygote, the implication is that it's not the same as like a human life. That's what Adam is
I'm
saying
like a baby or a child.
Right.
I mean, human life that's just nebulous, of course.
Sure. Scott Crosby for $20 says the PL, the pro-life argument, needs to frame abortion as the most egregious form of birth control, and we should promote current and the advancement of preventive and recovery birth control, abortion's path to safe and rare.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, like you would hope that should be the way it should be. Part of the problem, I think, and we'll get into this when we watch the Vosh video, where he's most unkind. You think we're bad faith?
Yeah, exactly.
About this conversation. Wait till you hear what Vosh is about to say. But yeah, no, I think that people on the right do get into some kind of trouble with that. Is that there isn't enough emphasis on using condoms and and using the pill and things like that as preventive measures. But that's because I think that's part of the problem with Michael Knowles' argument, is that if he is making this sex is only for procreation position, which again, I don't know if that's what he's saying, but that's what it sounded like he was saying in the conversation, that would necessitate that he'd be against using birth control. And you're kind of putting people in a no-win situation at that point.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump forward just so we can have this. Liclisso for $10 says, I watch Knowles regularly. Mm-hmm. He believes sex should be for marriage and there should be no protection. He is against IVF. He thinks human life is sacred and we should be fruitful and multiply. So there you have
So that sounds like he's saying no
birth control, period.
No birth control whatsoever, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and to me that's a far goofier position than than most other positions. That's a completely insane position, is to be no birth control. So because you're not giving people an alternative. That position could be consistent. I assume he really believes it, and I assume it's based off his religious beliefs, but I think it's an insane position to hold in modern society and completely not practical whatsoever. People are going to have sex. So you can't, I don't think you can say, oh, well, based off of my religious belief, people, shouldn't be having sex at all unless it's for procreation. So
yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Zara Richards for $2 says it's the feminine penis, Adam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the feminine penis.
Sure.
Suck the penis, Adam. Don't be a bigot.
Sure.
Don't you know? Brain for $5 says a solid generation of forced births will sort this gender nonsense out fast properly. Let's hear this hands, maiden tail stuff out, both sides and stuff. I actually think it's the opposite.
Brain,
I don't know why you'd say that.
Speaking my language now. That's me voting for the pro-life bill.
I think you're completely wrong. I don't know why you'd say that. A solid generation of forced births will not sort out this gender. I think the gender nonsense would be far worse. I don't know what you're basing that off of.
Right.
Why would you think it'd be better? Doesn't make any sense to me. But
Chitachi for $20.
Chitachi for $20 says if you play ball outside, you're still responsible for your neighbor's window being cracked by the ball. By playing with glass windows nearby, you're accepting the possibility that this could happen. Same goes for having sex. Oh, I agree with you. And I agree completely. That's why it's not like that's why it's not a clean issue. The way some of the pro-choice people contend that it's a clean issue, like the one we were listening to. You do have to accept responsibility. The potential actions or consequences of your actions always has to be in your mind. I just have a problem with the way he was wording it. It was very strange, specifically. So,
yeah, I agree too.
I don't think people consent to risk or whatever he said. They accept risk. They should accept risk, but I don't think consent to risk.
If you're a guy and you have sex with a girl and she gets pregnant and she wants to keep the baby, you're kind of on the hook anyway. I mean, you can't force her to have an abortion either. Right. So it goes both ways.
Well, there's an interesting thing, and I think I know I forget who it was. Some comedians have made this argument. They're like, yeah, it can be. I'll give the women to say that it's their right to choose if it's a guy's right to not have to pay for the baby.
Right. Yeah, they want to.
Right.
Yeah.
They want some equal treatment there. Which
they say my wallet, my choice. That's what they say.
Well, and to be fair, that's the way it actually should be. That doesn't really make sense. Because if you say, if the pro-choice argument is it's my body, right? So I have a choice to whether to carry the baby to term and take care of the baby, etc. Why does the man not have the right over his own body, his own bodily autonomy to work for someone else?
Because men are more eager, so they'll shoulder more of the burden.
Okay, but that's not like a legal argument.
No, but that's why it's evolved this way. It definitely is why it's evolved this way.
I understand that, but from a legal perspective, it doesn't really make sense.
Women have reproductive rights and men have no reproductive rights.
Yes.
Because men are just more eager. Like
right, but that's the problem. Men have no reproductive rights. And that's
I agree.
Pretty fucked up.
I agree.
So, not a fan of that. Nova Leon for $10 says, returning the abortion decision to the states rather than legislating from the bench is reducing authoritarianism, not increasing it. Conservatives aren't pushing for a national ban on abortion. Well, two things. I think it's very naive of you, Novin, to think that if we don't in the future have a Republican Congress and a Republican president, that they will not push for a national ban to abortion. I think that's naive if you don't think that's what's going to happen, because that's what will happen. But the question is it reducing authoritarianism? I mean, I guess maybe. I guess you can say that on a strictly principle level. Sure, maybe.
It is, because you can move where the policy is how you like it.
Well, maybe it's, I'm trying to think. I don't know if reducing authoritarianism makes sense. It's simply like, here's the problem. I wouldn't say it's reducing authoritarianism, because like if a court ruled something that they thought was judicial overreach, and they gave that power back to the state, and then the state said, oh, like what if the court said, so Scalia, I don't know if you know this is kind of bizarre. Thomas Scalia apparently thinks that states can have their own state religion. Okay. So if the court ruled that, and then states decided to adopt a state religion and public schools for that state mandated, reading from the Bible, I would say that's more authoritarian. Okay, so I don't think it's so clean to just simply say, well, giving power back to states necessitates the reduction of authoritarianism. I don't think that argument follows in my mind.
Yeah, didn't we have?
I think it depends on the specifics.
Wasn't the states' rights issue what the authoritarians were using to continue slavery?
Well, it was definitely, yes, and that was definitely the argument for Jim Crow laws, was the states' rights perspective. And that's obviously, I would assume most people would agree that second-class citizenship for Black people is authoritarian.
But in this situation, I do feel like what he's saying is accurate, because
no, he might be for this. I'm just saying that, like,
in this particular situation,
right?
Yeah,
I'm just saying you can't use the logic that whenever you think something has been legislated from the bench and it gets reduced and it gets brought to the states, that doesn't automatically mean by definition
but he
that
says
it's a reduction of authoritarianism.
He says directly, though, returning abortion decisions to the states rather than legislating from the bench. Oh, I guess.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I guess you're right. It could be either way. But I mean, returning it to the states, I'm conceptualizing as just you have the ability to move wherever you think.
No, I understand that. But I'm saying that the concept of just returning something to states does not equal less authoritarian by definition.
Right.
It can and it cannot.
Because the states could be totally authoritarian. They could be like, listen.
Right.
By law, we mandate that you get married by age 18, or we're going to kill you. And you have to be pregnant also you're thinking by 19, or
you're also thinking past the sale here, because you're assuming that the court was incorrect to interpret the law the way it did in the first place. So
right.
Very Dead Horse for $2 says, when in the pregnancy do you guys draw the line?
Do you have a line, Sitch? I mean, I don't really have.
I don't really, because I don't think about this at all, because I don't care really about it at all. But I'm fine with, first trimester, halfway through second trimester. I don't know, whatever the number is that people use. I don't care. I'm fine with that.
Right. Yeah, earlier is better. I think it's
earlier is obviously better.
Like in the third trimester, it's just, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I know that's wrong.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, no, I forgot. My line is 18 years.
Scott?
18 years. Yeah,
Crosby.
Still at 18 years.
No, okay. Anyway.
Scott Crosby for $20 says, the only thing Biden's inflation hasn't touched is the value of life.
What does that mean? I must be missing something.
He's saying like the price of everything has gone up except for the price of life.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good. That is good.
It's pretty funny. Edward Perano for $5 says, I'll administer the vaccine to this med student through my protein syringe. Ooh, sexy.
So I was waiting for that. I mean, she's pretty cute. I mean,
Oh, that lady, yeah.
Yeah.
She's okay.
Sitch, just look at you.
I don't know. When she's like, when you're a fucking white male, I just kind of go, oh.
Oh, that's what turns you off.
It's a big turn off. It's a big turn off. Yeah.
You don't like racist women?
I don't like racist
Come
women.
on. No. AOC is one of the most racist women there is.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I don't think AOC is nearly as hot as you do. But.
Right. Maybe it's just the racism. Maybe I'm crazy for racist women. I don't know.
It turns out Adam just really is attracted to racist women.
There's something taboo about it.
There you go. Listen, Gemini and friends. No. If you want to get on Adam's good side, you just got to be really racist, okay? He just can't help himself.
I'm gonna get in trouble. I can tell. We have 35 minutes before. I gotta make sure. I think I sent him the message already.
We probably won't have a chance to get through the entire Vosh thing. It's like a long video. I only watched Source. I only wanted to watch the first like 12 minutes or so, because that's where it's really crazy. But John A for $10 says, hey, Adam and Sitch, humor me for a second. Does human life have an inherent value, or is it based on some metric like utility? I'm curious.
Oh, wow. Trying to set us up, are you? You trying to set us up? Look at this. trying to stump us, trying to trick us, trying to trick us. Yeah, look at this.
I feel like that's a very long conversation because we'd have to say, well, what do you mean by inherent value?
No, he's trying to get us like they're these materialists. They don't care.
I know that's what Knowles said, the utilitarian. First of all, I think in any moral question you have to talk about what is utilitarian, which just means, is it going to lead to happiness or shittiness for people? I don't understand how you could have a moral system without thinking about those questions. That's not the end all be all. And that's not the same thing as consequential, which is a completely different thing. But I mean, I don't know. Does human life have inherent value to who? To the universe? To other people? I'm not sure. Like that's what I'm saying. This is a very broad question. I'm not sure. I have to think about it.
Does human life inherently value or is based on some metric like utility? I'm curious. I think human life has infinite value regardless of utility. So interesting. Yeah. But I mean, I guess it is an interesting question because you can jump to like the vegetative state where the person, I mean, is
but it has inherent value to who? To what?
Yeah, we go out of our way to keep that person alive when, I mean, they could be suffering. They could be.
No, I mean, when you say life has inherent value, inherent value to what?
I think it's value to society. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but there you go. Life has inherent value to society. I would agree with that. Right. Sure.
But then I guess also people forfeit that value all the time by being
by committing crimes, by being
shitheads.
bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But I guess that's not really a question. I'm assuming I'm interpreting when you say, does life have inherent value? You mean like, you're not talking about whether the specific, like assuming the person hasn't done something, or whatever. Right.
I guess if you change that to innocent life, then we're much more in the ballpark that you want us to be in, the like infinite value section.
But I'm still saying, well, inherent life to whom or to what? I agree with you that life generally has inherent value to society and to other people. And I think it's
tons
good.
Of value.
Yeah, and I think that's the way I don't think society can function unless it does believe. Well, I mean, it can. I just think it leads to very bad outcomes like socialism and monarchism and authoritarianism when you don't value individual human life.
So. Yeah. We're going to talk to LP about that.
777X for $10 says, how would you guys argue with a Nazi who thinks you want to force him to agree with you that Jews are people and therefore do not need to be aborted from life? Well, I'm trying to understand this question.
I know. I don't get it.
How would you argue with a Nazi who thinks you want to force him to agree with you that Jews are people? First of all, I wouldn't. That's a waste of time. Right. I would never have that conversation. If someone was a Nazi who wanted to argue with me that Jews are not really people, they're like.
But he's also saying that the Nazi wants to
something.
The Nazi wants to abort Jews.
Yeah, right. Just to kill Jews. Yeah, I wouldn't even have that comment. To me, that'd be a huge waste of time. Because it's such a far out position. It's like, well, we're obviously not going to agree. And just, this person is a crazy person. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I think that's a really bad comparison too. On top of that, because obviously we can all see the difference between a grown ass person of a different religion or race versus a fetus / zygote. I don't think that's a good comparison. Ostracy for $20 says, I agree. I came into this very late, and I feel like you guys could not understand even the most basic points he was trying to make and really misrepresent it. See, that's so baffling to me because it's like I went out of my way to not try to draw a lot of conclusions from what he was saying intentionally. And I feel like me not trying to draw conclusions is what triggered people into saying, well, you're not even trying to understand him. It's like, well, yeah, because if I was to go in there and if I'm going to read into what he's saying, you're going to get a lot more pissed because I'm going to disagree with him more. So it's very interesting.
Well, no, I
find
think
this interaction very interesting, but
I mean, we could infer that he's a life begins at conception guy, but we didn't because it wasn't explicit. But I feel like
we said it, and then I said I don't know, and it turned out we were completely correct, supposedly, by someone who watched the show. So I don't even understand.
So is that what you're saying? You want us to? You wish that we would have done that?
Here's the thing: the next person who makes that claim, that we're not even trying to understand him. If you have to be specific, that's what you're talking about, because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have no clue what you're talking about. And you just, and people just repeating that means nothing to me. It's like, okay, well, like how though?
We need to fix it. Let us know how to fix it.
Well, no. You've already clouded the issue, Adam. Okay. Don't let us know how to fix it. I'm not interested in how they think I should fix my thought process. I want to know what they specifically think we said or did in the conversation that is us either bad faithfully or intentionally or negligently trying to not even understand the basic point that Knowles was bringing forward. Because that's completely outside of my experience that's so outside of my perception of the conversation. I just don't know what you're talking about, so you're going to have to be specific.
I understood everything he said. I mean, I felt like I did articulate it.
Ostracy for $5 says, the coma patient example has nothing to do with assisted suicide. It has to do with literally murdering a person in a coma. I don't think you're correct. I would wager very strongly that if you look it up, Michael Knowles is against assisted suicide, which makes complete sense from a religious perspective. So I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he was talking about. I don't know how you could say
to be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what exactly you're saying,
but he is saying it's wrong to kill someone just because they're not sentient. That's what he was saying. Brain for $5 says he clearly thinks it's a human life. Now you are being pedantic. Stop digging. It's not even a complex argument he made against liberal materialism.
I understand that. I don't.
Brain, you're confusing me.
Well, and no, it's weird because we understand that he thinks it's a human life. We said that like 1,000,000 times. I don't understand.
Yeah.
We don't. That's the difference. I don't understand what you don't understand, I guess.
Well, I did say that it's nebulous. And I did for this reason, because, you know, the ship is sinking and we only have so many lifeboats, right? Mm-hmm. And there's only one spot left, and you have a 12-year-old, you have a 30-year-old, and you have an 80-year-old, okay? All human life, right? Which one are you going to give the spot to? I mean, clearly, I think we all agree that you're going to give it to the 12-year-old, right?
Right, sure. So there's obviously other considerations.
Yes.
That's a good example. There's other considerations.
Yeah. So this is why saying it's a fucking human life. It's like, is it? I mean...
Well, no, the question is not, is it a human life? The question is obviously there's other considerations beyond just simply saying it's a human life.
Right, yeah.
When it comes to this conversation.
Yes, it does.
Right. Well, at least for us. Maybe not for you, maybe not for Michael, but for us it does.
We understand for you, you're going to roll a dice to see who gets the lifeboat. Oh, look, the 80-year-old. Oh, your lucky day.
I don't think they would do that, but...
As soon as he's like far enough away from the ship that he has a heart attack and falls out.
There you go.
And the young woman and her son can wave. Oh, well, at least you got the spot.
Yep, there you go. Gene the Angry Penguin for $5 says, to clarify, many in the pro-life side do not see it as bodily autonomy issue as you choose to have sex and the baby's consequence of that choice. Oh, I understand completely.
I know. Stopped the video and rewound it to say, look, is this not the law of karma right here?
Yes, it is. It is.
You choose to have sex and the baby is the consequences of that choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do the crime, do the time.
There you go. Well, you know, it's interesting that we talk about karma and responsibility. That's going to come up a lot if we ever get to the Vosh video.
Right.
He doesn't understand that perspective at all.
Right. Oh, good.
I Can't Swim for $5 says, where do you think life starts and why at that point? I think someone asked that exact question earlier, and we said Oh, whatever. I don't care.
But they want our argument. They want to know that we have a solid argument, very solid, tangible argument that they can disagree
I'm
with.
pro-choice for religious reasons. That's my argument.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my argument. That's literally. You think I'm joking? I'm not. That's literally my argument.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating.
William Vance for $20 says, I think safe, legal, and rare was a good line. 16 weeks for voluntary, and after that you need rape, incest, or mother's life at risk. I think of Reagan when he said the irony of everyone who is pro-abortion never faced abortion. I agree with. I'm not familiar with the Reagan line, but I agree with everything else you said.
I totally agree with everything you said. Yeah, William. Yeah,
safe, legal,
I think
and rare.
that was Bill Clinton's line, safe,
Yes.
legal, and rare. And yeah, I think most people would really just like to forget about this fucking thing forever and just say, okay, 16 weeks.
Yep, 16. Yeah, I think that's good. 16 weeks for voluntary. After that, you need rape, incest, or the life of the mother. There you go.
16 weeks is that's within the first.
That's my arbitrary
trimester, right?
Line.
That's.
I don't know.
I don't.
Who
Yeah.
fuck knows?
Whatever.
I read that one already. Vierid for $20 says, I wonder what the position of the pro-life crowd in relation to vasectomy being used as contraception. Well, I would imagine, there's two things. I imagine Knowles himself would be obviously very anti-vasectomy, but that doesn't come from his pro-lifeness. That comes from his be fruitful and multiply-ness. I would assume that most pro-life people in the arguments they make regarding pro-life would have nothing to do with getting a vasectomy because they're not conceptualizing the sperm as like in the same weight as a zygote, even though the sperm is technically alive. So that's why you can't just say something is alive, but because a little bit more than that. Night-ish for $10 says, rare moment when conservatives are more care harm than progressives are more about liberty oppression. Thought the coverage was fair. Well, thank you, Night-ish. And that is a very interesting way of conceptualizing this. Is this a reverse of the norm? Is this the right caring about care harm and the left caring about liberty oppression?
I think that it is more about fairness cheating because I think the accountability is the real argument that they're making. And I don't think it's the care of the baby as much as it is there should be some accountability. You had illicit sexual activity and you should be accountable for that.
I mean, I think that plays into it. I do think ultimately it is about the life of the potential baby.
Right.
It's hard to tell because like when we think of, and I've said this a million times, when we talk about like care harm and liberty oppression, all this stuff, we have to be careful too, because some of that is like when we consider the right in America to be libertarian minded. But I think a lot of the right in America is libertarian minded, not because they're libertarian, but because they have to be to make arguments for what they want. Like, I think that's a lot of Ben Shapiro's arguments. Right. I know we have a lot of libertarians in our audience, and that's because there's a disproportionate amount of libertarians on the internet that follow politics. So I don't think our audience or any audience on the internet is a good sample size of how many people are actually libertarian. But
you do understand the Fairness Cheating Foundation.
I understand what you're saying.
They're saying it's unfair. They're saying it's unfair that the baby is innocent. And it's all the responsibility of the mother who engaged in this behavior. It is very much a fairness cheating situation.
I think you're the innocent
kid.
I think a better way of putting it is that it's They're both care harm. And the question is, they're putting different cares and harms on different things. So the right is putting the care harm on the baby or the potential baby, and the left's putting the care harm on the mother.
Right.
So they're both care harm, I think. It's just.
But why even throw in the accountability argument then?
Because you have to throw in the accountability argument, because the pro-choice side says, as she said in this conversation, well, you have the ability to consent over your bodily autonomy. So the counter to the consent of bodily autonomy is, yeah, but you're responsible for the fetus because you created the situation in which it exists in you. So you can't just say that you like basically, funnily enough, they're making the anti-debt ceiling bill argument, because it's like, you have Ted Cruz over here like, we need to abolish. I can bring it back. Listen, Ted Cruz over here.
No,
like,
I know what you're doing.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is like, we need to abolish the debt ceiling. Okay, and then the Democrats are like, you're a fucking idiot. You can't abolish the debt ceiling now. You have to decide what the debt is going to be when you decide the spending bill, like a year earlier.
Yeah.
You go to the restaurant and you decide what you're going to order, and then when you leave the restaurant, you pay the tab. You don't decide what you're going to order, and then once you get the bill, you decide you're not going to pay it.
Yeah, I abolished the bill.
Right, exactly. And it's funny because you could sort of say that's kind of what the abortion argument is, and both sides are on the opposite. Because now if the right's saying, well, wait, it's the left saying, oh, well, I decided what I wanted to order. I had sex, and then I had a result I didn't want, which is a baby, which would be the bill, and now I want to abort the baby. And the right saying, no, you need to, you're responsible because you made that decision originally by having sex in the first place. So you have to, be aware that having a baby is always a potential outcome. So That's why they have to make that argument, Adam. I don't think that necessitates some part of the moral foundation that they're appealing to, if that makes sense.
Fairness cheating just fits so well, though, because fairness cheating is about proportionality. It's about,
I think it's belittling their position, or not diminishing their position.
Well, I don't mean to do that.
I think it does implicitly. I think that's the issue.
Well, I mean, they're doing it deliberately, though, when they bring up the accountability thing.
No, but you understand they have to bring up the accountability to counteract the pro-choice argument.
Why?
Because I said the pro-choice argument is, well, the woman gets to consent at all parts of, the woman has consent over her bodily autonomy at all parts of the pregnancy.
Right.
And then they say, no, you give up part of your consent because you had sex.
Right, but they're saying it's unfair that the woman has consent at all parts of the thing, and the baby does have consent. And they're not saying you should give some of that,
okay.
Fair if you have if you have all of this pleasure during sex, and then you don't want to deal with the cost of that pleasure, you don't want to put the work in.
Okay, you understand
it's not fair.
Okay, that's belittling their position, and I don't think that's a fair, accurate representation of most people's position.
They want to represent themselves, I understand, as the savior of babies.
I think that's fair, though. I think that's where most people are coming from. I don't think most people are like,
then you can't make the,
if you want to enjoy the pleasures of fucking, you can't make the account to put up with a baby.
Listen, several times in this debate, Michael Knowles said,
Knowles is not representative, though, of the conversation.
But he did say you believe that, it's all about maximizing your sexual pleasure. He fucking basically said that.
I know, but Michael Knowles is a dingbat who probably seems to think that you shouldn't have sex for pleasure at all. And that's not that's not what most people are arguing in this conversation.
First of all, okay. I do not want to belittle your position. If you are a person,
I'm belittling anyone's
that is
position.
only if you're a person that is only concerned about the life of the baby, that's all you care about. Right. I can totally respect that.
I think that's
but
like 90%
why are you bringing up
people,
the accountability thing?
Because they have to. I explained this before. Okay, obviously. I feel like I explained this like 3 times, but
Well, you're saying they have to argumentatively, but I'm saying
yes, they do.
But they do. When they bring that argument up, what foundation are they appealing to?
They're not appealing to any foundation.
They are appealing to the fairness cheating foundation.
No, it's a counter argument for responsibility versus negligence. It's saying that your responsibility overrides your ability to just consent with everything you do to your body.
It's a fairness cheating argument.
Okay, whatever.
Totally is.
I don't know. In a wall here. Oh, you read that one already? Texas SP for $12. Texas SP 12 for $20 says, I want to know what y'all's definition of life is. Oh my god, I don't fucking know. What is my definition of life? I don't even know. I have no clue.
This is what happens when you don't.
Talking about human life or talking about life in general? Because those are different questions.
Oh yeah, you're right.
When you're talking about just life in general.
You can assume they mean life as in the context of abortion.
Of human life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When is it a baby? Is that basically?
Well, okay, okay. If it's talking about human life, I'm talking about like this specifically, which I assume we are. I mean, I would probably think that human life is whenever like higher levels of consciousness, brain activity starts to happen in babies. I don't know when that occurs. I have no clue, but that would probably be my, not just brain activity, but like, higher, not just animal brain, not just, monitoring the heartbeat and, all that stuff. I would consider higher brain function to be the
higher
thing.
Brain function, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's measurable. I don't know when that is, but
I just want to note for those of you listening that the chat is an entire wall of Adam is bad faith.
I tried to tell. I'm telling you, it's a bad argument.
It's complete.
It's not a good argument.
What is
your definition of life regarding when the fetus becomes a life or whatever?
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think I'm happy eliminating some things like at conception.
Right.
My gut just tells me no, that's bullshit. Complete bullshit. But I mean, I could be swayed on different points along that journey to say, okay, this is where the cutoff is going to be.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, 18, what is maybe, I mean, I might go as low as like 8 weeks. That's 2 months. Yeah, I might go 8 weeks. But the pro-choice people will complain. They're like, it's a month and they don't even know they're pregnant. And I'm like, well, yeah, you got a whole month to decide then. What the fuck? Right? What do you need? You need a year? I'm sorry, you don't have a year.
To my knowledge, the overwhelming amount of abortions are within like the first like 12 weeks or something.
Yeah,
or first 8 weeks. Yeah, that's my understanding. So, I mean, a lot of it's kind of a moot conversation anyway. It's kind of like when they say like, oh, well, most of it's not rape. It's like, yeah, well, most of it's not late-term abortions either. So,
right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I mean, I'm willing to listen. We have to live together. Okay.
That's true.
We have to get along. I realize, well, see, can the Michael Knowles of the world be happy with anything other than no, never? I mean, I'm not certain they can be. So, I mean, we might have to live with the fact that those people are just going to be extremely unhappy.
Right.
And move on with our lives. But I feel like the majority of the people, if the majority of the people are happy at like 8 weeks, I feel that's a pretty good spot. What do you think?
Sure. I mean, I think most people are fine with beyond 8 weeks. I think more than the 12 to 16 weeks.
Right.
If I were to guess. But
no, baby killer. 9 weeks, baby killer. 10 weeks, baby killer. I'm putting my foot down. I mean, they can write the law that way, but I reserve the right to call you a baby killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Chitachi for $5. Hey, Chitachi says life beginning at conception should be completely devoid of belief. Either does or it doesn't, and science says it does. Still love you guys.
I
Well, no, because then you get into an argument about how you define the term life.
Right.
And I think maybe this is part of that framing, which has been so mainstream that I never thought about until there's this moment. I think that is thinking past the sale, because I think it relates to kind of what Texas asked me is what's my definition of life. It's like, the question isn't where does life begin? For me, the question is where does human life, or what I consider human life, begin? That to me is the real question that we should be asking ourselves in this conversation. And I don't equate human life as beginning at conception at all. So yeah, I don't think Adam does either.
Well, I mean, it's a weird thing, because if you make it through this perilous journey called life, I mean, I think it's safe to say that your life began at conception, obviously. But I don't know. I don't. You don't like that framing because it opens up a can of worms.
Well, I don't agree with it.
Well, I mean, if you garden or anything, you always plant a bunch of seeds, and some just are fucking shit. They don't go anywhere.
Yeah, but again, you're buying into the framing, I guess. I'm not asking where life begins. I'm asking where human life begins.
But I mean,
and I don't equate human life as, to me, human life has to be conscious. It has to have some kind of higher brain function.
So you're saying that your life did not begin at conception. Your life began 8 weeks after you were conceived.
Well, if you're asking me specific, my life only begins when my first memory fucking occurs, really.
Right. Okay.
From like a perceptual level.
So your life began at birth.
Or I didn't even remember that, but.
Okay, that's fine.
That's why I'm saying it's not easy. This isn't like I don't think you can just say like
it's an easy question. It is easy.
Look at nice.
Jesus Christ.
Thank goodness.
It's really easy.
Finally.
Conception.
Hello.
I did not come here to debate abortion.
It's fine. We didn't want you on here to debate abortion. So
good.
That's totally good.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show, and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.